Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1448.
Keep in mind, you can only achieve honest, good results in design if you design a product that you have a personal affinity to.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Do you know the best way to protect your vehicle, both the exterior and the interior, is with a car cover? I've been using Covercraft car covers since 1975. That's right, 1975. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. Covercraft has been manufacturing premium quality exterior and interior covers for over 50 years with a stellar reputation for durability and design. They're the world's largest manufacturer of custom patterned vehicle covers that are crafted to fit over 80,000 patterns and growing. They are the only cover I'll put on my vehicles. You can choose from a wide variety of fabrics, styles, colors, and more. From full cover designs for factory to custom-made vehicles, plus convertible top covers, trucks, truck cab coolers, motorcycles, scooters, ATVs, trailers, campers, personal watercraft, and a wide variety of custom features. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark sent you. That's covercraft.com. My favorite collector car magazine is Keith Martin's Sports Car Market. I've been a subscriber for decades. Sports Car Market is the Wall Street Journal for the enthusiast and the collector. It's your monthly must-read whether you dream of owning a collector car, have 2 cars, or 200. Sports Car Market has been around for 31 years, and it's filled with valuable articles, intelligent write-ups, and the latest auction sales. Go to sportscarmarket.com and subscribe today. Plus, you'll get the exclusive SCM guide to restoration shops included for free. At checkout, use the code CARSYEAH and receive a 50% discount on your digital subscription. It's an exclusive offer from me here at Cars Yeah. I'm Mark Green, and I love Sports Car Market magazine. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest. Calling in from Los Angeles, California, Jan Matthias. Jan, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Always.
Always. I hope so. Jan Matthias has been actively involved in the design profession for over 35 years, starting out in the position as chief designer for Porsche Design in Austria, where he worked with Butzi Porsche, among other great people, responsible for product design and project acquisition in Europe and the United States. And then in 1979, he started his own design business and worked in a wide variety of industries and countries. And in the late 90s, Jan worked at Designworks USA BMW in Los Angeles on 2 specific aircraft interior design projects while supporting their international marketing efforts. He also worked with the Boeing Company, that's up here near where I live in Seattle. He has earned awards from Art Center College of Design, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the City of Beverly Hills, the Florida Design Council, Stuttgart Design Center, and he is a recent recipient of the prestigious Red Dot Design Award in Germany. That is very cool. So, Jan, I have told our listeners just a little bit about you. Before I jump into the questions, though, could you take a brief moment and share a little bit more about your career, your design work, and a very obvious passion that you have for automobiles?
Certainly. As I started out, I studied engineering in Germany way back when, then changed over to industrial design. I went to Art Center College in Los Angeles, and I graduated there in 1975, and I went right to Porsche Design in Zell am See in Austria, and worked for Ferdinand Alexander Porsche. We called him FAP or FAP, but his nickname was Butzi. I had some very interesting and very inspiring learning curve experiences. From there, I went on my own in south of France and worked my way through the European design arena, so to speak, and then returned to the United States again in the mid-'80s and worked freelance from there on. And in the late 90s, I had a brief several-year encounter with Designworks, and I was called in by Chuck Pelly to design some aircraft interior because they hadn't done one yet, and I had done a Learjet for Clay Lacy in Van Nuys. And so I was assigned to a Boeing business jet interior design. And from then on, that led to several other projects with the Swiss aircraft manufacturer Pilatus and with the Brazilian company Embraer, and various other projects on Singapore Lufthansa business class, etc., for an Airbus A340. So that, in a nutshell, was my activity. And then in 2010, I unfortunately encountered a stroke. I suffered a stroke, and as a result, I decided to retire from the active design business. And I am since emphasizing anything that is car related, and that leads us back into the passion question. I loved cars from the beginning when I started to walk and started to drive and smell and touch cars and draw them. And today I am photographing cars. I am working on the computer to enhance the images, and then I print it and I paint over it because that's the only thing I can do with my left hand. So my car passion is now in the two-dimensional arena, and I focus on vintage classic cars per se. So there is no brand that occupies my brain most. They are all brands. I admit that the timeline of the 50s, 60s, mid-50s, mid-60s is my most interesting area, and that is what I'm doing.
Well, it sounds like fun. And a lot of my guests I have here on Cars, I don't have the pleasure of talking to before, but Jan and I spoke last week before we went on the show, and we started talking about his time at Porsche and the fact that he got to work at Porsche Design with Butzi Porsche, of course, who kind of splintered off from Porsche when the patriarch there came and said, you know what, all you kids can't be part of the business anymore. You need to get out of here. Go do your own things. Otherwise, you're going to bring everything down. Probably, most likely a very smart thing that he did. And we may touch on that, but I want to focus on you and your life here. And I want to start by asking you, Jan, for a success quote or a mantra, some kind of saying that's been important for you. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars. So take the wheel.
Well, there would be, right off bat, there would be a more humorous mantra, and that came from my very much appreciated instructor / mentor, Strother McMinn at the Art Center College, who was a very well-known, since passed away, very well-known gentleman who basically started out at Art Center as an instructor for what you call surface development. He made that remark, which never left my consciousness, my conscience and consciousness. And he said to me, we were always called by the last name. He said to me, Matthias, your pencil is dull. You are German. You should always keep your pencil sharp. And as a matter of fact, you can achieve that by constantly, slowly rotating the pencil itself when you follow what you call a sweep, which is basically a template of a given curve. And you rotate it, and thereby you keep the pencil point sharp. And it's not worn out at a certain angle, and thereby the line gets fatter. So that was one mantra. The other mantra, I think, I would call out Butzi Porsche, my then boss after Art Center, because he said, Mr. Matthias, keep in mind, you can only achieve honest, good results in design if you design a product that you have a personal affinity to. That means if you design sunglasses, you definitely know what you want about sunglasses and what you dislike. And the same applies to the, let's say, another household item or another item that you deal with on a daily basis or once in a while, but you have experienced something. You have a learning curve with it. If you are supposedly designing a zero gravity habitat for NASA in space, you are on uncharted territory and you don't know what to do. And that is artificial. That answer is artificial and it is not credible and not honest. So those would be two mantras or two keywords that I would mention to answer your question.
Well, I love these. And your first one brings up my father to my memory. My father was an architect. He was an artist, a designer. And he taught me when I was little that practice of rolling your pencil, because back in the day when he was an architect, there were not computers to work on. You worked with mechanical pencils or regular pencils. And I remember this distinctly when I was a kid. I said, Dad, how come when you draw, you're always spinning the pencil? And he told me the same thing that your design teacher told me. So I started practicing that and doing that. And by golly, it works. So it brings back some very warm memories. You know, and I love the metaphor here relating to that. And that is, if you're not constantly moving and changing in your life, you're not improving and staying sharp. So there's kind of a tie to that, you know?
Yep.
I love it.
Perfect point.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that perfect point, nice pun there, Jan. And also,
yeah.
I love the fact, and I'm a bit jealous that you got to go work with Butzi Porsche and around that brand, because that's my brand of the one I like the most are Porsches, of course, but the fact that you got to create things. You know, my whole life, probably because of my dad, I've always wanted to have things around me, no matter how simple. If it's a can opener or a toaster or something, for me, it has to look good. It has to work well as well, but it has to look really good. The aesthetics have to be right. Just something I've been plagued with, but I'm thankful for people like you and my father who create beautiful things for us to use every day. I want you to share a story with us that instigated your personal passion for cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were a car guy?
I think it basically started probably when I was able to walk, because that was the only truly, honestly memorable time, or rather it reaches back into my memory bank, when I started to have an affinity to cars. Going into the car and driving in cars with my dad way back when, in the few years after the war, was always an adventure. My father at the time drove, which I do remember, two BMWs. One was a 1938 327 convertible, and then that was followed by a 328 four-door. And those were things that I remember vividly, because I'm saying we, because my brother and myself, we were two unit or one unit. We were impossible to uncouple. And so we were standing side by side, literally standing, holding on to some handle by the glove box. And we were so excited that we couldn't sit down. We had to stand. And we were holding on to those handles. And the BMW had a little device where you could manually tilt the front windscreen, which was a two-part windscreen, out to get ventilation, if so desired in the summer. And we fiddled with these things early on, because anything left of that was my father's territory, and anything in front of us was our territory. And then we slowly expanded to, when he had Mercedes, we expanded to the cigarette lighter, which sometimes burnt our hands because we pushed it in and it popped out again, and then fell on the floor and we grabbed it. And then we started to explore further to the left to get to the radio, and with the Becker Mexico at the time, we could push that little station searching thing that went from left to right and right to left again. So we enjoyed this, and we touched cars, we smelled cars, we experienced cars. And on top of it, my father was an engineer by profession, and he drew cars all day long, and so did we. And we copied the catalogs in my father's factory. He had catalogs for trucks that were used in his equipment manufacturing, and we copied catalogs, and it was cars day in, day out.
How fun.
So that is where the passion started, and it never left us.
Yeah, nice memory lane there you took us down. That was great. I love it. Well, let's talk about a challenge or maybe even a failure you faced in your life along the way. And the reason I ask this question is not so much to drum up a bad time, but more importantly, what was the learning lesson there? Obviously, when we encounter these things, we're pushing ourselves past a comfort zone, and it teaches us valuable lessons. So walk us through one of those times in your life, if you would, and tell us how that experience helped you gain even more momentum as you moved forward in your business and your career.
Well, a failure, or let's say a situation that I regret, it is two-sided. It could be read as a failure. It could be read as a development in my life that finally put me on course.
Okay.
And that was that in 1967, my father, who owned and managed a very successful road building equipment manufacturing business in Germany, decided that it was time that I would go to America to get my education. And this was supposedly in engineering. And I had studied engineering already for 2 years in Germany. And I got the chance to apply to Stanford, which I did, and I was accepted, which was an honor in the first place. And I was all set. And the day before orientation, I decided to decline and fly back to Germany for a very, let's say, narrow-minded, maybe even ridiculous reason, because I had a girlfriend in Frankfurt.
Oh, the love.
So I packed my bags again, and I returned to Germany. I, in hindsight, which is very rarely 2020, I regret this because 2 years later, my father passed away from a heart attack at a very early age. And to a certain extent, I blame myself for having contributed to this. And in response to this, I tried to contact Stanford again. And for understandable reasons, they said, no, we have had you once before, and we do not want to try this out again, which is, I take with a certain grain of salt and a piece of humor, but that's how it worked. And instead and here comes the positive part, I decided to apply to Art Center College. And I was accepted. And so you can say that regretfully, but as a positive implication, I thereby found my way to Art Center College.
Wow, what
and
a story.
This is something that I never regret, because Art Center College is a fantastic institution. And every minute I loved, and every minute was a learning curve. And that is my life. My life is part of having gone to Art Center College.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. Well, I'm so sorry you lost your father way, way too soon in your life. And to carry that burden that you might have had something to play with his heart attack, I hope you've moved past that. That has to have been horrible. But the story in and of itself has some wonderful golden nuggets and lessons, I believe, within it. One is that story of chasing a love, chasing a young girl. Everyone's done these things to alter their lives, good, bad, or indifferent. We do them. And as long as we learn from them.
By the way, that didn't last long.
No, they never do. They never do. Yeah.
But it brought me back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it played a part in the role. And I love the positive outlook of how you ended up and where you ended up that you did, because that would have never happened. And who knows, we wouldn't have been talking today. So it makes for an incredible story for sure. Fantastic. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special vehicle, the first car in your life that had great meaning for you, and maybe share a memory you have about that ride.
Okay, so my first car was a mid-60s Volkswagen Beetle, first of all, just historically speaking. My first car that was really exciting in my memory was my 1969 BMW 2002 Tii. That was an incredible car. It was a fantastic car. It handled well. It was compact. It was powerful. The road control was fantastic. It had 2 doors. We got everything in it. My brother had the same car, and my brother chose to have it tuned by Burkhard Bovensiepen at Alpina. That left me with the choice of going to either Schnitzer, which was another house, well-known tuning house for BMWs, but I chose to go to a place, I think it was somewhere around Düsseldorf, which was called Köpchen. Köpchen put in 2 Weber, I think it was a 40 DCOE Weber carburetor, and with open air filters. And over the air filter, we had to put ladies' nylon stockings, which were soaked in oil in order to keep the filters clean. So that was another story. And I took that car on a Virgin summer holiday trip from Germany to Switzerland. And at each hairpin and mountain pass, I just enjoyed in the front, the guttural intake vibration from the carburetors and the air filters. And in the back, I had an Abarth twin pipe exhaust that gave me the noise in the tunnel. So this was a very exciting trip. And the car was navy blue with a silver top.
Ah, so nice. Nice. Well,
it was a beautiful car.
Yeah, those are awesome. And you took us on a nice little journey there. Is there a car you've owned and let go that you wish you had back? Is it that car, your seller's remorse story?
No. That car I had to leave behind when I went to go to Art Center College. There was remorse, but the remorse was overshadowed by the excitement of go to Art Center.
Yes.
The real remorse came when I was at Art Center and I decided to buy a 300 SL Gullwing.
Oh my.
And that was a 1955 silver over blue. And I bought that from my dealer friend in Hollywood, a Porsche dealer, Bob Smith, Porsche Audi. Pete Smith is still a very close personal friend of mine. And I bought the 300 SL out of his back garage, and I think I paid $12,500 for it, which was a lot of money. However,
the big however.
Now comes the hindsight of 2020 again.
Yes.
Who ever knew? Who would have known?
Nobody.
So,
yeah.
And now you probably mull in your mind whether you should ask me why I sold it.
Okay, I got to ask you why.
Yeah, there are a couple of aspects. First of all, I then graduated from Art Center in 1970. I bought this car in 73. I graduated in 75, and I tried to sell the Gullwing, and I couldn't sell it. I offered it for $15,000, and I couldn't sell it. So I went back to my purchase price, 12.5, and I still couldn't sell it. And so I shipped it back to Germany. And then came the most ridiculous description / excuse why I sold it. I didn't have an appropriate garage. I worked for Butzi Porsche in ski country in Zell am See in Austria, and I did not want to expose the car to corrosion and rain and sleet and snow. And so with a heavy heart, I sold the car.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Goodness. Well, I've heard a lot of these stories on the show, Jan, so you're not alone. Many of us have gone through these things, but who would have thought that these things would be worth so much money now. But I can't imagine being a college student driving a car like that. That's pretty incredible. So you had that experience that very few people get. I think that's brilliant and fantastic. Let's talk about what has you excited and fired up these days. You mentioned at the beginning what you're doing these days, and you're somewhat semi-retirement, but the fact that you're staying active and doing things despite the stroke that you have and the limitations that leaves you with. This photography and then painting, tell us more about this, and can people go and find these pieces of art and buy them from you?
Yes, I don't have a website yet. I have been under construction, as they say, for many, many years, because I'm constantly distracted by new photos that I took of cars that I hadn't seen before, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And but on Instagram, everybody can find me under Jan Matthias.
Okay.
And I'm the guy with that little wheel icon. When you go to hashtag Jan Matthias, you will find my posts, and I post my artwork there, and I post my daily pictures. And as you can imagine, Southern California has an unlimited fund of cars on the street. And so I am blessed with being able to photograph cars that people in other parts of the country only see once in a while or once in their lifetime. And we have cars literally coming out of our ears. And I have a couple of hotspots where I take pictures. There are certain upscale restaurants along Melrose and in Beverly Hills, and the cars are parked there and accessible, and so I take car pictures around the clock.
Nice. Well, and this is a great thing, and it's a key part, I think, of success in later life. When you're so-called retired, is you must stay busy. You have to have a reason to wake up in the morning and do things. And the fact that you've continued to share your passions on your Instagram account, I would encourage you listeners to go find that. I'll put a link on Jan's show notes page here on the Cars Yeah website, or you can just go to Instagram and type in Jan, Jan Matthias, Matthias, and that'll pop right up and you can see what he's creating. Fantastic. Jan, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. When you want proven performance, there's one brand that's been around since 1938. That's Edelbrock, building the finest American-made performance products for the street and track. Edelbrock's products are designed and dyno-proven to deliver maximum results. Edelbrock has thousands of made-in-the-USA performance products for all makes and models. From their new AVS2 carburetor and innovative ProFlow 4 EFI for your muscle car or truck, to superchargers for your daily driver and more, visit Edelbrock.com to check out the latest products for your ride. And when you're ready to check out, enter Cars Yeah in the coupon code and get 10% off your order. That's Edelbrock, automotive performance since 1938. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified. And he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. All right, Jan, we are back, and I have a bit of an introspective question for you. I'm going to kind of get in your head a little bit here. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a car, manifested as a vehicle, what would you be and why?
Tough question. I would not be a Lamborghini. I would not be a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley. And instead, I would go way back and way down, so to speak. And I would revisit something that is closer to the brand that I worked for, Porsche. I think I would choose a Volkswagen Beetle.
Ah,
and that's
okay.
for several reasons. First of all, it is a very minimal car. It is a very honest car, and it is super reliable, and you can still fix things with a screwdriver, and you don't need to plug in a computer someplace or whatever. The car is frugal. The car has a definite cool factor, which is very important to me.
That would
Just
be
a
it.
joke on the side, my grandkids think I'm the cool grandfather.
Well, you
cool
are,
factor,
Jan. That's why.
The cool factor applies to the car and to the grandfather.
I love it.
And also the car brings back memories.
Yeah.
Because I did my first 360-degree spin in the snow, and all those things. I mean, this car has personality, and it is very Teutonic.
Yep.
It is iconic, Teutonic, reliable, minimal. That's why I would choose to be a Volkswagen.
Nice.
It's
perfect. It's you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Do you want to talk to all these salespeople who wanted to talk me into buying cars?
No, I don't want to hear from any of them.
No, I think that would relate directly to the product. I learned that you should never, which many people do, you should never show off and rev your engines and then shut it off and walk away from the car and close the door. Because when you do that, you pump the cylinder heads full of gas. And then since you don't burn all the gas off while you're gone and you chat with your friends at the barbecue, the gas runs down the inner side of your cylinder and your pistons and dissolves the lubrication. And by the time you get back to the car to drive home, you have no lubricant. That was one, and I think I got that from my brother, who always was the car nut and who was a little bit ahead of me, of my curve. Mr. Porsche told me to use, when you have a oily film on the windscreen and it's the first rainy day out, you don't get this clean window, the windscreen, right? So he said, why don't you take a cigarette, break the paper, unroll the tobacco, and distribute the tobacco over the windshield and rub it in with your hands. And that cuts the film.
Really?
That cuts the oily film on the windscreen. And
I've never heard that.
And he also told me, when you go to the gas station and you clean your windows, which in Germany we do by ourselves, and sometimes here the attendant does it or used to do it at the gas station, you should always wipe the rubber blade of the wiper, because that's where the dust and the sand collects. And when you turn it on the first time, it scratches your windscreen.
There you go. Good advice. How about a personal habit of yours that you believe has contributed to your successes over the years?
My habits are to always be on time / to be early, which is sometimes annoying to the client secretary because they don't have the coffee ready. But on the end of the meeting, I would probably jot down my thoughts immediately. I don't drive home or fly home and then start memorizing things. I write them down when they are still hot out of the oven. And also, I never was inhibited by any chairman of the board or head engineer when it came to discussing the product. I had a talent to comprehend and to understand the product very quickly. So I really didn't have a problem dissecting and analyzing the product in itself, the functions and how it would be manufactured. I would come around with a certain base understanding in a very short time frame. And so the sometimes questionable relationship between the designer and the engineers, who feel that the designer thinks he knows everything and they worked on this product for 30 years, and the designer is supposed to walk in, make a lot of money and come up with an idea in 4 weeks. You break the ice with the engineers because you understand their product, you understand their problems much better, and you can relate to the pluses and minuses. So based on that, I also had a key ingredient that I brought to the table. I always had an improvement of some sort that came out of my design. Most of the times the designs and the products were patentable, which was a definite advantage of the client, for the client, and for me too, because it put me on the map, and it also gave me something that I left behind and I could always refer to. So I have quite a few patents to my name, and that also translated obviously into better fees.
Absolutely. Wonderful. How about a resource? Is there one that is a go-to for you that you'd like to share?
That's a difficult question. Resources these days are basically internet related, because you have immediate and constant access day and night to anything you want to know. So resources would be things like, what should I say? There is a website called, I don't even know whether I pronounced this correctly, Behance.
Behance, yes. Yeah.
Yes. That is a source of inspiration. Then in the fashion, which I also relate to very much, fashion and sneaker world, there is a German-based website called High Snobiety, as in high society, but it's the snob. So it's the High Snobiety. And that is, to me, aside from another one that's called Hype Beast, those are two social media platforms that deal with anything fashion, streetwear, sneaker world.
Yeah.
And that is very inspiring, because you feel the trends and you feel the latest in footwear, and Adidas and Yeezy and Kanye West, and you have it, and you name it, and Nike and all these people, and Bathing Ape, which are all these outlandish names, but they seem to be commonplace these days. And that is what I call inspiration accelerators. Because once you look at these things and you absorb a little bit, then it flows back into your day-to-day inspirational environment, and it gives you creative juices, so to speak.
Absolutely. Very cool. How about if I could arrange for you to have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased? Who would it be?
Difficult. I have met a few people in this arena. I think if I had to pull out a name, it would be somebody to relate back to the 300 SL, the Gullwing. And there is a gentleman called Rudolf Uhlenhaut, who used to be head engineer and head of R&D at Mercedes in the 50s and 60s. And basically also, I think, into the 70s. He's passed now. And he created the Gullwing, first of all. He created the very famous 300 SLR, which is called the Uhlenhaut Coupe. That was a car that was meant to be entered into the Millimilia and those races. And the coupe was never entered, however. And the car itself, the reason why the Gullwing was created in the first place was that the car was basically a welded space frame out of many, many small diameter steel tubes, which was the main material left over after the war that the Mercedes racing department could work with. So they had no carbon fiber. I mean, leave that alone. That's decades later. But they didn't have any other pressed stamped pieces or whatever. So they literally welded hundreds of very small diameter, let's say half an inch maximum, thin-walled steel tubes, and they created this space frame. And then over the space frame, they built the aluminum body. And in the area where you would normally have the cutout for the doors, they couldn't cut that out because the space frame would have lost its rigidity and its performance. And that part forced the door to be cut short. The lower third of the door, so to speak, is part of the body, and the door thereby was shortened, and thereby it created the opening to the top, which hadn't been done before. And also it created this hump that you had to go over and basically fall into the seat of the car.
Right.
Which was fun because when the girls had to jump into the car, it was a visual orchestration because the driver was very happy to stand on the girl's side and wait until she had to go over that thing, and the same thing on the way out.
That's funny.
It was cumbersome, and it also, I think it contributed largely to the heat in the car. And so that car was never a comfortable car. It was a fantastic car, but never comfortable. It was a rough riding car with the live air axle at every step, with the concrete plates on the freeways, where there was a little line offset. The car would offset to the left or the right, and you had to aim again where you wanted to go. So it was really a pain in the neck to drive it, but it was very it was a fun car.
Yeah, no doubt. How about a book? Is there a book you'd like to share with us today that you've enjoyed reading?
Reading right now, Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
There is Walter Isaacson with I think 500 page book, which is a hefty book to place on your lap, but it is very enjoyable. And I was always drawn to biographies, and it is a very detailed, minutely detailed biography of Leonardo working in Milan and coming from the province of Italy and doing his work. And I'm only in the beginning. I think I've covered now 200 pages or whatever. It basically tells us that he never really finished any big work, whereas the others, his contemporaries, they finished one big work after the other, and he never finished. He got sidetracked and he got discouraged and he did too much research. And so it is almost a negative description of what he did. On the other hand, I mean, it's fantastic what he left behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a car book would be Mulholland Experience.
Nice.
Mulholland Experience is describing not only Mulholland as the road that leads along the ridge in Los Angeles, the mountains that separate the west side from the valley, but it also describes the personalities who raced there and crashed there, and some of them killed themselves, and the nighttime and the cops trying to find out who was it. And so it's a very interesting, very entertaining book.
Very cool. Well, we're up to the checkered flag here, Jan, and I'm going to ask you a question here that may be a challenge. We'll see. I'm going to buy you any cool collector car you would like to have today and park in your garage. But it's the only one you can have in your garage, and I want you to drive it and enjoy it, and you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with. So what can I buy you today?
Jesus.
I know. I have some rules to my game because I'm writing the check.
You don't have any easier questions?
Nope. There's nothing easy here. That's too boring.
We've excluded the Lamborghini and the Bentley and the Rolls.
Okay.
So that leaves a couple of other cars.
Yeah.
It has to be a beautiful car, number one. That is a number one thing. It has to be a car with a certain history to it, with a weight, and I think it should relate back to my upbringing and whatever. So, first glance, everybody would probably expect me, since I touched on the Volkswagen already and the BMW, would expect me to say, oh, why don't I get a Gullwing again? But to everybody's surprise, I think I would choose the Roadster. The Roadster has even more beautiful lines from my point of view. It is technically basically the same, but it is more drivable. It is a more comfortable driver, daily driver. And at my age of 73, I think those are the things that count. And the ladies don't have to jump over the hump anymore. So that is more comfortable for weekend trips. And the car has beautiful lines. Beautiful lines. And a few of my friends own this, so it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice. I much prefer the Roadster to the Gullwing. A lot of people shake their head at that, but I think you're right. I've had the pleasure of driving one. They're absolutely brilliant cars to drive and fun. So I'd be happy to deliver a 300 SL Roadster to your garage. Jan, you have taken us on a great ride today. I want to thank you for sharing your life stories with us and appreciate your time today. Would you give us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you drive off into this Mulholland Drive in that 300 SL Roadster?
I think it would be design related, and I think it would be a professional remark, and that is that honesty always pays off in life per se anyway, but also specifically in design, because if you create things that are not honestly formulated, formed, shaped, articulated, they don't live long. And I think the responsibility that the designer has should be more coming to the forefront. We have a responsibility to create something meaningful, to create something sustainable, and nowadays to create something that is less impactful on the environment. And in contrast to that, or as an enhancement to that, leaves less of a devastating footprint on our planet. So that would be my concluding statement.
Nicely said. Well, listeners, you can find all these great things about Jan on the Cars Yeah website. I'll make sure I put links to his Instagram page. And once he gets his website up, I'm going to have Jan let me know, and I'll put a blast out there on social media so that you can find that as well. Jan, thank you for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your worldly experiences with me and the listeners. This has been delightful. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Mark, thank you. It was a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me and giving me a chance to leave all my nonsense here on the record.
Absolutely. Auf Wiedersehen.
Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.